Hi, and thank you for joining me. In this Foundation GCSE Maths video, we are looking at one of the classic skills that we find all the time in exams, and that's how to multiply out two sets of brackets. It can be a little bit fiddly, but thankfully we have a very useful tool to show us how to do it, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on here. Before we start to consider multiplying the double brackets, I think there are a couple of things that are useful to already understand, and these include the power of indices and what happens to indices when we are multiplying terms, what a negative sign does to a multiplication in algebra. It is also useful to have already had a look at multiplying out single brackets and also how we collect like terms. We are going to use all these skills when we are expanding or multiplying double brackets, and I'll put links to my videos covering all these topics in the description below. So let's make a start. Here we have two brackets. They are placed side by side. There is no symbol in between them, and we know in algebra this means that we have to multiply them together. So what we are in fact being asked to do is multiply the left-hand bracket with the right-hand bracket. The way we do this is to multiply each term in the first bracket with each term in the second bracket. The useful thing is that we do have a method that we can use that helps us to make sure that we don't miss any of these steps, and also that the answer is in the correct order for the next step of the problem. This method is known as the FOIL method, and here's how it works. We are simply using the 4 letters in the word FOIL to remind us of the process. The F stands for first, and it means what we need to do is to multiply together the first terms in each of the brackets. In this case, it's the X and the X. So they are the first terms in each bracket, so we start by multiplying them together. So X times X is X squared. The O stands for the outer. Now what this means is that we look at the outside two terms in the brackets, these being the X and the 3. In this case they are both positive, so we are multiplying X times 3, we get plus 3X. The next step is the I. This stands for inner, which means the inner two terms. These are the ones in the center here, in the inside. So we are now multiplying a 1 and an X, both positive, so 1 times X is simply X. And the L stands for the last terms. In other words, the last two terms in the brackets, which here is the 1 and the 3. So we are multiplying 1 times 3, all positive, we end up with plus 3. That can seem a little overwhelming first time round, so let's have another look at again. The FOIL method. F is for first. We are looking for the first terms in each bracket. So in X plus 1, the first term is the X, and in X plus 3, it is also the X. So these are the two terms that we are going to multiply together first, the X times the X, and we ended up with X squared. Then we're going to look at the outer terms. This means the ones on the very outside of the problem. That would be the X in this bracket and the 3 in this one. So we are multiplying the outside two terms, the 3 times the X. This is where we ended up with 3X. The I is the inner term, so we are looking for the two terms that are on the inside. In this case, the 1 and the X. They are on the inside. 1 times X is just X, and that's what we ended up with. And the L is for the last terms. The last term in this bracket is the 1. The last term in this bracket is the 3. So we are multiplying 1 times 3, and we end up with 3. So our answer is X squared plus 3X plus X plus 3. But we know that if we have any like terms in a string like this, we have to collect them together. And usually when we are expanding double brackets, we will find there are like terms. We need to collect them, so let's have a look at them in this case. Well, the x squared, that is the only example of x squared that we have. But in the centre here, we have plus 3x plus x. So altogether, we have plus 4x. That is the only number on its own, so we simply put plus 3. So our final answer becomes x squared plus 4x plus 3. I am going to have a look at another 2 or 3 examples here just to make sure we have the method in our heads. So here we have x plus 2 and x minus 4. We're asked to expand or multiply out the brackets. So I'm going to use FOIL. I'm going to multiply the first of the terms. In this case, the first term in this bracket is the x, and in this bracket it is also an x. So x times x, we have x squared. I am then going to use the O, which I know stands for outer. The outer two are the x and the 4. Now in this case, it's minus 4. It's a plus x, it's a minus 4. Plus times minus is going to be minus. 4 times x is 4x. So we have minus 4x. I'm then going to look at the inner terms. In this case, the 2 and the x are on the inside here, both positive, so we have plus 2x. Finally, I'm going to look at the last terms in the brackets, which in this case is the 2 in this bracket and the 4 here. Again, it's positive times a negative, so the answer is going to be negative. 2 times 4 is 8. And as usually happens, in the centre here we have 2 like terms, so we need to collect them. We have an x squared, but then we have minus 4x plus 2x. That gives us minus 2x, and on the end minus 8. Therefore we have expanded the brackets and we have simplified the answer by collecting the like terms. Another example now, in this case we have a 2a in the first bracket here, so let's again follow the rules. F for first. The first 2 terms are the 2a here and the a here, so 2a times a is 2a squared. Both terms were positive. I'm now going to look at the outer 2. That's the O from FOIL. The outer 2 are the ones on the outside. 2a times 3, both positive. Therefore, we have plus 6a. I'm now going to look at the inner 2. Now here we have a 6 and an a. Therefore, it's 6a, but be careful because this one is a minus. Therefore, minus 6a. Then we have the last 2, which is the minus 6 times the 3. Minus 6 times 3 is minus 18. Minus times a plus is a minus. So in this case we have 2a squared plus 6a minus 6a minus 18. Now collecting like terms here, well, we have the 2a squared. We have plus 6a minus 6a. In this case, they cancel each other out. 6 minus 6 is nothing. So we have nothing to put in the final line, except on the end we have minus 18. So in this case, it will simply be 2a squared minus 18, because the like terms have cancelled themselves out. Finally, let's look at an example that looks very different. This time we have only one bracket, 4x plus 3, but we have squared on the outside. Now, a very common mistake that you need to avoid is to believe that this means you have to square each of the terms. This is not the case. When we see a squared outside a bracket, it means the whole bracket has to be squared. In other words, multiplied by itself. So, the first thing we need to do is rewrite this whole sum by putting 4x plus 3 and multiplying it by 4x plus 3. We are multiplying the whole bracket by itself. That is what the squared is telling us to do. Once we have this, we can then go on to solving the problem as we have previously. So now we have 4x times 4x, that is the f from FOIL, so that becomes 4 times 4 is 16, and x times x is x squared. We then look at the outer two, which is the 4x times the 3, so we have 4 times 3 is 12x. We then have the inner two, which is 4x times 3 again, so we have another plus 12x. And finally the last two are the 3 times the 3, and 3 times 3 is 9. So we now end up with an answer that looks very similar to the previous ones, and yet again we have some like terms. So we have 16x squared, but we have plus 12x plus 12x, therefore we have plus 24x, and on the end plus 9. 16x squared plus 24x plus 9 is therefore our final answer. You would not have achieved this answer had you tried to square each of the individual terms, so please don't fall into that trap. I think that's one of those skills where you really need to have some practice. So go and have a look at some examples and try them out for yourselves. I have put some links in the descriptions, as I promised, to some of the other skills that we use there, and I hope you find those useful. Please do subscribe to my channel, and if you hit the notifications button as well as the subscription, you'll get to hear of any new ones that I'm bringing out. Hopefully I'll see you again. Thank you.